complicated for me, so I was just like, I'm gonna use OBS.
Yeah, I think OBS is a little bit more complicated, but overall it's you have more options than you do with Streamlab. I used Streamlab for about a year and was just kind of like me,
Yeah.
so all right, but we are live and it looks like people can see us. So I want to
Yeah.
just go ahead and say hello to chat. Hey guys, how you doing? Let me just go ahead and give out welcome thwips to everyone that is here. So let me go ahead and give a welcome thwip to the Netta, the Mesozoic Mind. I believe I saw you on Lewis's stream. Lewis, of course. Thomas Bennett. And yeah, so anyways, Lewis,
Hello.
I just watched you play this game. So please like spill to all of us here, like just out the door. What are your thoughts so far?
Crazy.
Right?
Absolutely mental. Wild. Wild. No, this is honestly, this is um I don't know. I can't I don't know. It's one of the um yeah. No, it's hard to collect my thoughts
That's
really
that
because it's like
you're
it's one of
you're
the best
saying
games.
about a lot of the same things I said when I got done with it. I totally know how you feel. I'm like, what
Yeah.
did that? What? So many
It's so much
surprises.
to unpack.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, we're going
Yeah.
to get into it. I'm going to go ahead and get things underway for the episode right here. So, guys, for those of you that are new, this is my weekly Spider-Man podcast stream, the web line, I call it. It's my own Spider-Man podcast. I think we're at episode 18 right now, and the way it works is I stream this live every Sunday at 2 p.m. Central Time. I live in Houston, Texas, in the States. So I would imagine it's probably got to be what, 8:30 for you right now, Lewis? Is it somewhere around there?
Yeah, it's about half past
Yeah,
eight.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and kind of start the episode proper. I'm going to do the intro, and then we're just going to get into it. Lewis, you and I are just on screen. If you can see the stream, you can see that I've got Spider-Man 2 footage playing in the background. So, and you and I are both up, and we're going to talk about the game. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Webline, a podcast about Spider-Man and his amazing world. Here we discuss all aspects of our favorite web slinger in a fun, informal, but informative forum. I am your humble host, the Spidey Librarian, and for this episode, I am joined by fellow Spider-Man YouTuber LewisFilms as we give our impressions of and review the brand new, amazingly action-packed video game from Insomniac Games, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Lewis, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, man. Thanks for having me, though. By the way, it's
Oh,
I really want to talk about this game. So
yeah, we just
so
came
excited.
off the reason we're a little late getting started today is we just came off of Lewis's live stream where he finished the game. So looking forward to that, and I've been looking forward to you. I've been looking forward to working with you on this episode. Welcome to the podcast. I've obviously been on your channel and seen your content, but why don't you take a moment to talk about your channel and tell my listeners what kind of content you create specifically?
Well, it's just Spider-Man stuff. Generally, I kind of try to give more of like an opinion-based video essay kind of thing. I guess you could say. I'm bad at explaining this. Basically, I'm a Spider-Man channel.
I really,
Essentially, I post Spider-Man videos.
yeah, I really like your content. I remember, I don't remember how I found it. I just remember like I found one of your I found one of your videos, and what I like about your videos is that you're not just talking about the movies or the TV shows. You're reading the comics. You're reading the comics like every week, and then discussing them and giving some pretty thoughtful analysis about them. And I mean, I have a box at my local comic shop. I'm getting the comics. I'm not as great at keeping on top of reading them as I should be. But I really like what you're doing on that front, and I really find that even if I don't agree with all of your opinions, I like the way that you phrase them, and you come from a very good place. So I really do enjoy your content. It's one of the reasons I've been excited to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you, man. I do appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I try to. I don't know everything about the comics. I've only really started reading them the last, like, I'd say 2 or 3 years. Because I've always loved Spider-Man. I've always kind of understood the character, I guess you could say, but not as much as I probably should be. So I was like, hey, I'll pick up a comic and I'll read it. And I've read comics before, but never to the extent that I do now. And I can tell you, like, the stuff that I've learned about Spider-Man over the past couple of years just by picking up a book and reading it has been insane. And like I said, I still don't know everything. There's still things in my videos that I get wrong, and people correct me in the comment section. They'll be like, "Oh, this did happen actually. Like this is where you find it. It's issue 552 in this panel." It's like, "Oh God, okay, yeah, I did see that." But like, I'm still learning every day, and I try and make my videos kind of centered around, I don't know, kind of coming from a good place, like you said, like trying to be more, I guess you'd say, thoughtful on the subject. Like the Zeb Wells comics, everyone hates them, no one likes them. They're really big in the community for being this trash run. And if something's good, I'll say it's good. Like I like the recent Goblin arc that they did, and I'm like, okay, well, let's sit down here, let's talk about it. This is all right. This is pretty good. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, and that's what I like about that's what I like to do, and yeah, I think it's
Okay.
it gets a good reaction out of people. I think people are respectful of it, and I like that.
Before we go any further, I'm getting some feedback from the chat that we've got an echo sound. If past is prologue, it's probably coming from your end. If you give me a second, I'm going to see if I can switch to a headset. I think what might be happening is that your sound is coming through my speakers and probably hitting my microphone. So let me see if I can just route things to a headset real quick, and hopefully we can avoid that issue. Just give me one moment here.
That's fine.
Yeah, my apologies. One thing I'm learning as I podcast is that you have to basically figure things out as you go along. All right.
Sometimes that's just how it is.
Yeah. Give me just a moment here. Let's go ahead and see if it'll go through that way. All right. Can we do a quick sound test just so I can see?
Oh yeah, Netta says now it's good.
Okay, and I'm definitely hearing you, hopefully, and I think you're coming through on the desktop. So, all right. So, are we good now? I'm just gonna ask the chat one more time. I know the Netta says it says that we're good. Everyone else, we're good. We're not doing any more echo.
Good.
All right. Okay.
Howdy.
Excellent. All right. Okay, YT user, welcome to the stream. Good to see you guys. This is this is a jumping crowd for my podcast. Usually live, I'm lucky to get like 2 or 3 people. So this is really nice. So thank you guys. Welcome, and thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. All right. Well, let's see. Lewis, let me go ahead and just ask you before we go on, because I don't know how much you spoke for quite a bit there, and I don't know how much of it is going to be echoey. Do we want to try to kind of recreate that conversation, or do you just want to move on? I'm fine either way.
It's whatever's better for the podcast. I mean, if people heard it clearly, then I think it should be okay.
Yeah, and I mean,
if they didn't, then we can go back over that.
Yeah, it's not it's not, at least in the past, it's been like a little annoying. It hasn't been like unlistenable for the most part, but um I'll tell you what, let's just go ahead and recreate it, and we'll use that one because it looks like the sound quality is much better now. And apparently I just need to start wearing headphones when I podcast. So all right, so it'll just start with the how are you doing? So Lewis, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
I have been looking forward to working with you on this episode. Welcome to the podcast. I've obviously been on your channel and seen your content, but why don't you take a moment to talk about your channel and tell my listeners what kind of content you create?
Well, I basically just do Spider-Man stuff. That's just kind of how it is. Yeah, it's yeah, basically Spider-Man. I'm just a Spider-Man channel. I occasionally talk about other stuff, but it's
Yeah,
like
no,
Spider-Man. Spider-Man's my passion, so
yeah, no, and I like your stuff. I mean, like I remember, I don't remember how I found your channel. All I know is that I found it, and I just saw some of your video essays. And what I like about your channel is that you don't just cover like the movies and the TV shows, and it's not just a, who's better, Tom, Toby, or Andrew. Like you actually are reading the comics. You're giving some pretty thoughtful analysis about them, and I really like that about your channel. I think that's a good piece of content that you put out, and I like that it's very wide ranging. It's like I'm trying to be with the podcast. So it's one of the reasons that I'm really excited to have you here.
well, thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's the thing. I haven't read all the comics. There's a lot of stuff I don't know, and people will still like correct me in the comment section down below, like
Oh
about like
yes.
really niche things, these storylines. But I'm always trying to read more, and I've read Spider-Man comics before, but never to the extent that I do now. And it's like the last 2 years I've learned so much about the character, and it's just like there's so much out there than just Tom, Toby, and Andrew, like you said, and like the games and the shows. It's like there's these stories that, like, for example, The Kid Who Collects Spider-Man is a comic that resonates so much with me. Is probably one of the best Spider-Man stories
Yeah.
of all time, like
No, I
presenting
agree.
the character. That's that's only ever been adapted in the '90s show, from as much as I can remember, unless there's another one. But the '90s show is the only thing that's adapted it. Oh, and Spider-Man Lotus, but we don't talk about Spider-Man Lotus. And yeah, so it's stuff like that. Like there's so much about Spider-Man as a character that we don't know and we haven't seen, and even hasn't been adapted into the mainstream yet, that I think people are missing out on if they love the character. So if you like Spider-Man, you haven't read the books, go read the books. That's what I say.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you're absolutely right about Spider-Man fans. They'll call you on it if you get something wrong, and they'll correct you. And
Yeah.
I've made my fair share of mistakes. Probably won't be, I'll probably make many more. I actually caught one mistake that I made myself though. And the very first episode of this podcast is actually about how we got Spider-Verse. And everything from the title on down is wrong after I did a little research. I did the episode, and it's like from video games to comics to movies, and basically, I had a guest on with me, and he basically said, well, the really first, instance of Spider-Man teaming up with other Spider-Men from other dimensions was in the animated series. And I'm like, I told him I don't disagree with you, but I'm trying to create a chain here, and there was no direct chain from that. I found out afterwards that one of the writers on the animated series also worked on Shattered Dimensions, and I was like, okay, there is a chain link. So, but yeah,
Really?
yes, there
Oh
is.
wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah,
I thought, bro, that's crazy.
and
Wow.
I was just like, okay, well, that episode is now wrong from the title on down, but whatever. We make mistakes. We're human. It's all good. So, we are going
Yeah.
to get into it, but first, I want to address a slight scheduling issue. Listeners who were expecting episode 18 to feature a retro review of 2007's Spider-Man 3. Have not gotten that yet. And the reason is that in preparing for attending and then coming back and recovering from New York Comic Con last week, the episode just kind of fell by the wayside. Now, I am planning to work on it and will put out that episode in the near future. I appreciate your patience as I get readjusted to my production schedule. The web line streams on Sundays at 2 p.m. Central, Sorry, I'm going to do that line again. The webline streams on Sundays at 2 p.m. Central Time on my YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast service and leave us a like, review, and follow where appropriate. If you're on a service that doesn't carry the web line, let me know by shooting me an email at spideylibrarian@gmail.com, and I'll do what I can to get it pushed out to you. And finally, for those of you here on the live stream with us today, please be sure to thwip the like button and chime in with your perspectives in chat. But before we do a daring dive into our timely topic, it's time to dish on the latest spiderific developments with our knockout news segment, the Bugle News Flash. All right, so most of the news for the last week has pretty much been dominated by Spider-Man 2 reviews. There's been a lot of that going on. I'm not going to go into that. There are plenty out there for you to read. I have avoided them until now because I didn't want to be spoiled for anything. So we're going to be doing some non-Spider-Man 2 news this week. First one that I've seen, and Lewis, I think you've actually done a video essay on this, but apparently Jonathan Hickman is going to be writing a new Ultimate Spider-Man comic. And apparently they've been kind of teasing who Spider-Man is going to be. They're saying that it's not necessarily going to be Peter Parker, and my understanding is that the Ultimate Universe is kind of being rebooted, but in the wake of kind of the ultimatum or the ultimate kind of destruction that happened to it a few years ago. And if that's the case, that Peter Parker, well, he was dead and then he came back and then it looked like he went on to other things. And so, you know, we don't know if it's going to be a new version of Miles or someone else entirely. And Jonathan Hickman is known for taking some creative, like, he takes some home run swings. You know, he's probably going to go for something big. What are your thoughts on this?
I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited because, as we touched on earlier, the current ASM comics aren't greatest, and yeah, they have their ups here. Like there are a few stories that are pretty good, but when it comes to Ultimate Spider-Man, it's like the original one was so good because it was its own thing that had a beginning and an end. And
Yes.
that's why it was good, because it managed to encompass. It didn't drag on for ages to the point where, like, you know, they were starting to regress the character because they had no more stories to tell. It wasn't
Right.
affected by editorial at all. Um, and that's what made it so good. So if we're getting that again, then I'm 100% down. Now it's gonna be completely different because this is another one of those things that I actually got wrong in my video. Well, I didn't get it wrong. I just never brought it up, and I probably should have because it was a key detail. But this comic, basically, at the end of Ultimate Invasion, the evil version of Mr. Fantastic basically steals the spider that bites Peter Parker when he's 15, and he steals
Oh,
it so it doesn't bite him. And we know that this story is going to follow a Jonathan Hickman himself described it as Ultimate Peter B. Parker. So we know it's going
right.
to follow a
Yes.
older Peter Parker, an older, not necessarily him as Spider-Man, because Mr. Fantastic has the spider. So whether he gets bitten as an adult or whether he gets bitten a few more years down the line, and then he's been Spider-Man for a few years when we meet him, we don't know. We don't know the finer details, but we know that Peter will get bitten by the spider later on in his life, which potentially means we could get a lot more stuff happening with MJ. Maybe they're married, maybe they have a kid, maybe Peter's a
The
teacher,
stuff
maybe
that a
he's got a
lot
better
of fans
job,
have
maybe.
wanted for years. Yeah.
Exactly, which is why I'm so excited for it, because this means that they're basically going to give us everything we've wanted for years and years and years in this comic. And obviously, Spider-Man is still going to come in and mess everything up and potentially get him fired from his job, etc., right? But at least we're going to see what Peter's life looks like for a little while before that happens.
Well,
So I'm
I'm
really
yeah.
excited. And if it ends anyway that the other Ultimate Comics did, with, you know, an actual ending, then I'm down.
Yeah, no, me too. Me too. I've definitely admired Jonathan Hickman's writing in the past, so I'll be interested to see his take on the web slinger on this one. So, All right. Next news item. We have a Netflix streaming date for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and it's just in time for Halloween. On October 31st, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse will be streaming on Netflix. And I mean, I'm one of those people. I went out and got the Blu-ray and all that stuff because I'm a big nerd. I want to support this this film franchise, which I think is great. But pretty nice, pretty nice that other people who might just have Netflix are going to be able to see it. Maybe they've been waiting this long. I know that there are some like reactors on YouTube who they just wait until something comes out on a streaming service before they watch it, which explains why they may not be able to react until like that point or something. So that's always really cool. But I'm really excited about that, and I love the film. Lewis, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, it's gonna be great. I'm glad it's finally coming to streaming services. People who didn't go to the theaters have got to watch this movie and see how good it is. It's a brilliant film.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then finally, the only other news item that I found from the past week is that apparently the original Spider-Man 4 canceled plans were recently revealed. Now, I'm not sure how truthful this particular headline is, but there was one little nugget of speculation in there that I hadn't heard. Now, if you followed the Sam Raimi films, you know that they did have plans in place for a fourth Spider-Man movie. Um, Sam Raimi left because apparently he didn't see them making a profit on a film that had a budget of 400 million. And wow, how times have changed. Um, but um,
Yeah.
but a couple of things that I kind of had heard already that were in this news piece were that, John Malkovich was going to play the Vulture, and that Anne Hathaway was apparently on deck to play Black Cat. These are things that I had heard of before. One thing that I hadn't heard was that apparently Angelina Jolie was going to be in the fourth Spider-Man movie as like the Vulture's daughter, called the Vulturess, and I'm like, really? I don't know how much older John Malkovich is than Angelina Jolie, but I'm like that's an interesting casting choice there. So it's just kind of this weird little thing that I saw, and I'm like, why not just mention that? So I don't know. Any thoughts on this one, Lewis?
I gotta say, what a cast though! Like,
I know, right?
what a cast! Like, that's crazy. I mean, I didn't know Vulturous and Black Cat were gonna be two separate people. I thought they were gonna be an amalgamation of the character of one another. Um, that's what
I
I first
might
initially
have heard
believed.
that
But
at some
if it
point.
came,
Yeah.
I think that was the initial rumor was that Anne Hathaway was gonna play Vulturous slash Felicia Hardy, but she would be Adrian Toomes' daughter. But I guess now the new report is Angelina Jolie was going to come on to play Adrian Toomes' daughter. But yeah, what a cast though! Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, Rosemary Harris, J.K. Simmons, Anne Hathaway. John Malkovich,
John Malkovich,
Angelina
yeah.
Jolie. That's like a $500 million casting budget anyway.
That is, yeah,
That
that
movie
is
would have been
a
expensive.
yes, that is a star-studded cast right there. So,
Yeah.
all right, okay, and that's all the news. That's all the Spidey news for this week. Now, let's get ready for our feature segment as Lewis and I get into the ins and outs of the newly released game, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. All right. For this reaction and review, Lewis and I will be working in two parts. For the first section of this segment, we'll operate under a non-spoiler banner where we talk about the positives and Mr. Negatives of the game, while doing our level best not to give away any of the narrative twists and storyline resolutions. I'm going to have a hard time with this, but we're going to try. Once we've said enough on that front, we'll implement a spoiler warning and really dive into everything about the game, including plot details and spoilers. Now, Lewis, I have a list of basically kind of pros and cons for the game that have worked for me. I would like to give you first crack at just kind of like your impressions, non-spoiler impressions of Spider-Man 2. What did you like most? Like name, I guess, because there's so much to like. Name like I guess three things, I guess, that you really just liked about the game and just let her rip.
Ooh, there's so many to choose from. Three things that I like about the game without spoiling. Oh no. I like how they handled. I can't even say that. Um,
What did you
oh
think
my
of the
god.
character? What did you think of the character designs?
Okay, yeah, you know what? Character designs. Character designs was brilliant. Writing, writing was on point. I'd almost give it a 9 out of 10. Um, I'd almost give it I'd give it a 9 out of 10 probably. It wasn't completely perfect, but like it was really good. 9 out of 10 for writing, probably from me. And the last thing I gotta say is the gameplay. Yeah, no, actually, gameplay first and foremost. The gameplay. That's my number one
Yeah,
gameplay.
no, the
Like,
gameplay
especially in
was
comparison to the last two.
yeah. No, the gameplay was absolutely spectacular, and I think one of the things that I like the most about the gameplay is that it's very similar to the previous games. Like you've got a lot of very familiar things going on. But if you've played those games, you are not going to be able to just do the same things you did in those games in order to get to the end. They've added new mechanics. They've added complexity to the gameplay and a lot of depth, even for veteran players of these games. I don't know. I don't know if you watched any of my streams, but I got frustrated with some of the boss fights because I couldn't do them the way that I used to do them, the way that I was used to doing them. And you know, I mean, that's good. I think that's a good thing in the long term because it shows kind of an evolution of everything. So I think that that really helped. I liked stuff like the gliding mechanics. They added so much to this that really kind of like just built on what I already felt was a pretty complete gameplay universe, you know?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. You hit the nail on the head with that. It's like there's this game built on the last game. Like the gameplay in the first two games was good, but I felt like if they kept it for this one relatively similar, it would have been like, okay, well, this is getting a bit boring now. Because the boss fights, realistically, they were too easy in the first two games. They were. This game, the boss fights are not easy. They are
No,
not easy.
no, they are not.
Um, and bear in mind, I'm someone who does not play video games whatsoever. I do not play video. I only play the Spider-Man video games in terms of like story games. I played The Last of Us, but like this is about as far as my my reach goes in the modern day. I don't really play video games anymore. But but like when I say that the first game's boss fights were easy, that's coming from someone who doesn't play video games. So I'm glad that they were harder because it made it more tense. And like you said, the traversal was improved upon. I think the parrying was a big thing that they added in this game, which
Yes.
made it a bit more tactical, I guess you could say.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
also the yeah, and just like the ability to, you know, to counter those attacks and stuff like that, and the gadget system and everything. It was all in favor of. Oh, and by the way, as well, you can't heal at any point. You can only heal when you have a full focus bar. Like that added
Yes.
so much more risk and reward to like if you use the takedown or if you heal. Like there's more risk and reward in that. So yeah.
It certainly heightened the stakes. No, I agree. And you know, the interesting thing about the parry is that you would think like that having more defensive options would be a good thing, and I would argue that it is. But again, like with Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales, all you have is the dodge and the perfect dodge and stuff like that. And so when you're used to doing just those things, remembering to parry, and now there are certain enemies that could just like switch up, whether they did an attack that you needed to parry or dodge, like that just makes things even more, again, like you said, raises the stakes, so they did a knockout job. I want to go back to what you said about the writing, because I will agree with you that the narrative is amazing. And I have a couple of, I feel, fairly non-spoilery things that I think that we could say about it and maybe expand upon. And I think I want to start just by saying that I think if I have a bottom line to this reaction and review, it's this. Insomniac is doing what the comics won't allow. They are developing the characters. They are taking these characters and they are basically they're growing them, They are giving them arcs that really kind of show them evolving as heroes, as people, as team players. And it is like I've seen many of your videos about the state of Amazing Spider-Man comics, and based on what little I've read, I am hard pressed to debate you. It does seem like they just want to keep Spidey in stasis. Insomniac does
Yeah.
not do that. They do not do that, and they do such a good job with it.
Yeah. I mean, I love that we get stuff like the games because it means that um we can have a Peter that grows. We can have a Peter that gets older. You know, and the comics they're gonna go on forever. But I mean, realistically, this franchise we're getting to the end of it now. It's gonna end in the third one probably. The third
Yep.
one's gonna probably be the final one.
Yep.
So
Trilogy.
even yeah, exactly. The third one's probably going to be the final one. So unless there's another Miles spin-off at some point or another spin-off, the third one's probably going to be the
Oh,
final one. So I think the fact, like we mentioned with um with the Ultimate Comics earlier, like it's gonna have a definite ending, right?
yeah.
Whether there's other spin-offs, whether there's whether it be Miles or another character, who knows down the line, we don't know. Um, like they're doing with Wolverine as well. This franchise is going to end. So they can grow Peter up and they can make him that character that they want him to be. And that's the beauty of adaptations, because adaptations will eventually end. Whereas the comics,
Yes.
especially ASM, will never end. And they're running out of things to do. They're running out of stories to tell, and they just have to regress the character all the time. And it's really annoying. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I certainly agree with you though. Um, I also felt like the storytelling itself was just so emotional and very compelling. It really kind of grabs at your heart, and it'll swell it in some places and it'll squeeze it in others, and without getting into any plot points or anything, like I found myself very much enjoying the journey as Peter, um and again, this is me trying to not say too much, but as Peter has his big ups with people, and you can see that they're building this all up because they're going to bring it crashing down, which is what a good storyteller does. But they really make you feel it like every step of the way. You're genuinely happy for Peter. You're genuinely happy for Miles. You get to hear a lot more about other characters in the game, and I think that that's just really wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. I think you said it perfectly. With it's the journey in this game that you can enjoy.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I reflecting upon it. I'm gonna need maybe another few hours, maybe if not a day, to catch my thoughts more on the whole story. The but really, this I think this story that we got now, I don't think narratively it is as solid as the first game and Miles Morales. I know
Hmm.
it might be a hot take, but I don't think it's as solid. I think there is holes here and there. I think there are a few things that maybe make it a little bit weaker. but it's the journey. It's the journey. It's the it's those big moments, and that's what makes this game really good.
Yeah, no,
So,
I agree, and I'm eager to eventually get to the spoilers section with you. um, and then one other thing that I noticed about the writing is they freely adapted a whole lot of stuff from other elements and like other Spider-Man media and lore. They take a lot of they take a lot of things from the comics, of course, and other video games and some of the the movies and stuff like that. And what I like about what Insomniac does here is they take a lot of those things for the purpose of putting their own twist on it. They don't just kind of like they don't just color by number like the from the source material. And again, I don't want to go into too many spoilers there, but they picked from a lot of stuff that has happened in the past in Spider-Man's world, and I'm really excited about that.
yeah, they do. It's the best of a lot of worlds. Really, this game is like
Yeah.
it's the first game. I think we mentioned in my stream that I did about an hour ago that it's the the first game and this one especially as well takes a lot from the Dan Slott comics, and it's like it takes stuff as well that was not very well received from the Dan Slott comics, and like
Hmm.
you said, puts Insomniac puts their own twist on it and um makes it its own thing. But the thing is, they don't just they basically take the same concept and like it's exactly the same thing, but in the context of this story, it makes it so much more impactful. I think that's a way
Yes.
that I could describe the way that they do some of the things narratively. But yeah, it's great.
And I just want to take a moment to just point out that, yeah, like we mentioned the voice acting. Well, actually, I don't know if we've mentioned the voice acting, but my God, first of all, let's just get this out of the way, okay? Yuri frickin' Lowenthal kills
Oh,
it.
Yuri Lowenthal. Oh my god, Yuri Lowenthal. Oh my god. What a
Like,
man. What a
yeah,
man.
he
He's
committed
crazy.
emotionally to all of this stuff, and I think that that was just wonderful. He knows that he's carrying a big, most of the weight of this story, and dude handles it with aplomb. And I'm just, like almost every single scene, like I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the character, like during boss fights, he talks with a lot of the people that he's fighting, and Jesus, like you can hear like the pain in his voice a lot of the time, and it's just like, wow, this is someone who just knew he did the homework. He knew the assignment, and he did the homework. you know but
Did
I'd
the
also like
homework.
to,
He
oh
did.
yeah, yeah, I'd also like to just give out props to Najee Peter as Miles, or I'm sorry, Najee Jeter as Miles, who was also amazing and had his own really good arc that we'll talk about in the spoiler section. Laura Bailey's MJ, and two other actors that I want to point out: Tony Todd as Venom. The first time I heard him speak as Venom, I knew who it was. Like the moment I heard the voice, and I'm like, oh my god, that's the Candyman. And and I was
Yeah.
just like, wow. So I was already freaked out from that very first trailer. But also, someone that you didn't see in any of the trailers, Stephen O. Young as as uh, as Mr. Negative. Like we know he's in the game, and he does a really good job with what he's given as well. Like so much so that I feel the need to point it out here.
Yeah, he adds a lot of layer to the character.
Yeah.
I was not expecting Mr. Negative to get that treatment in this game. Not
You
at all.
know, yeah,
I
and
thought he did. And we'll go
yeah,
into that in the spoilers, but like
we
damn, like
will
he
we
was
will. But I'll say this. because I have feelings about the One More Day and then that story. But the thing is, like, I remember hate reading Brand New Day, those comics that came after One More Day. And I remember seeing Mr. Negative's story. He was introduced in the Brand New Day saga. And I remember, again, I'm hate reading all of these comics, and I'm like, oh, this sucks. Oh, this sucks, you know. But I'm just like, wow, like, part of me is thinking this isn't bad actually, like the stuff, and especially with Mr. Negative. So when they ended up using him in the first Marvel Spider-Man, I was actually really happy. I was like, oh, that's a good choice because that's not your Green Goblins, your Venoms, your Doc Ocks. Like he's and they've done some really good stuff with him. So but yeah, no, just as a whole, the voice acting in this game is on point, and everybody they brought their A game, and they went hard, you know. So really, really excited for that. Um, we've talked about the pros. I'd like to go into some of the cons that I have that are non-spoilery, and I want you to chime in with yours whenever the moment strikes you. Okay. All right.
Okay.
There are a couple of bugs and glitches that I encountered throughout the game. I think during my streams, I think the game crashed on me like 4 or 5 times.
Oh,
One or two
really?
times, oh yeah, no, it happened. One or two
Wow.
times, I'm just like, I'll chalk that up to random, chance. But like that many times, I'm just like, I'm gonna mention this, even if it's just me. Which with my luck, I may not have the Parker luck, but sometimes it's close. But it's just kind of one of those things. Like, what is going on here? There was also at least one bug that I encountered, and Lewis, I saw you encounter this one as well during your final playthrough. But there was a bug
Yeah.
where the screen freezes when you get a prompt from Miles to use the L1 and X combination to use a certain move, and then you do it and nothing happens. And I remember that being like, okay, that's a thing that we're gonna have to like they're going to know about that, and they're probably going to patch it at some point. But it's just kind of like, oh well, that's fun. I looked it up and found a solution for it pretty quickly on Reddit and was able to progress. And I believe I provided the solution to you on stream when you got to it, because it was like, yeah, no
Yeah,
one
you did.
deserves to
Yeah.
go through this. So
I would have
another
been there for
issue.
hours, man. I'm just saying, I wouldn't have made
Oh
it.
yeah.
I wouldn't have made it past then. I wouldn't.
Um, Another issue that I found a little bit annoying was that the tendency for the fights to simply just mob and overwhelm you is a little bit frustrating, and I'm willing to acknowledge that I may be coming from a not good place on this, because when I got the game, I basically was trying to shotgun the story. I'm like, let's just get through the plot, and we can do all the side quest stuff later. So I probably didn't unlock as many perks and all this other stuff, and didn't have as many options. But like, I just felt like the name of the game was crowd overwhelms you, so that you don't even have a split second to really kind of like get your strategies, to think them through or anything. It's a really minor thing because I got through it eventually. It just was a point of frustration that kind of clogged my flow at times. And I don't know. It's going to be different strokes for different folks on that, and I completely understand it. It's certainly not a big enough thing to take away significantly from the game, but it was something I noticed as I was playing. So, and then I think the
Yeah, no,
final.
it was.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just agreeing with you. Like, it was overwhelming at points, but I guess it was a way to make the game harder. So
Oh yeah,
on that
yeah,
front, when we look at it like that, but yeah, we can definitely say that.
yeah. And then the only other thing that I've got is that boss fights were almost never less than 3 separate fights, which, I mean, again, I'm all for making things more challenging than they were. I agree with you when you said that the boss fights in the first game and Miles Morales are probably a little too easy. I certainly agree with you there. I'm playing Spider-Man 1 on ultimate difficulty on New Game Plus right now, and it's really not that hard. No, it's not that much harder than the other difficulties. So I agree with you there, but I just kind of felt like the artificial lengthening of the fights was more than a little annoying because there were like there was one stream where I think I wanted to break for dinner, and that boss fight just kept going on and on and on and on, and I was just like, come on, I want to go eat, you know. So I don't know. Do you have any like cons that are particular to the game for you?
Yes, there's one big one, and this is why it's a 9 out of 10 and not a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Uh, the in the beginning, and not so much towards the end of the game, and obviously, you know, I can't really go into much detail as to why. Actually, no, you probably know because of the symbiote, right? But at the start of the game is way too techy. Just I don't like how much the game relies on
Hmm.
some tech mumbo jumbo to make the narrative move forward. And I understand that like we live in a universe where, Doctor Strange exists, paranormal, Venom, Sandman, all these guys are about. And then you got the Avengers, you got everyone like Daredevil's out there somewhere. Like it's the Marvel
Hopefully,
universe,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So, but there's one scene towards the start of the game where a certain character takes Miles's mask off him and then wipes something on it and is like, "Oh, here you go. Here's the location to all of these things." And then you're just like, "What? What do you mean? Like, wait, what? Mm? Like, seriously? Like, wait, you can't do that." And they have 3D printers in their web shooters as well. Like,
That
what?
that was
Like
yeah,
Peter has That's crazy. Peter. Okay, I get that Peter has the nanotech arms coming out of his back, so he
right.
can give him some more combat. Because obviously Miles has the Venom Blast and all that stuff. So yeah, they had to give Peter something before he had the symbiote to make him a bit more interesting in combat, which I understand. So I give it a pass. But still, he has nanotech spider arms. They have 3D web printers, 3D printers in the web shooters. They've got everything. It's like I just it wasn't for me. That's not what Spider-Man is, and I don't mind Spider-Man being techie because Peter Parker's clever, and I get that. The first game had it perfect for me. He'd be able to make these gadgets. He's doing it on a budget, but he can do it because he's Peter Parker. But here, I'm just like, nah, there's no way. I'm
I
sorry,
mean,
he's
what?
broke.
Yeah,
He hasn't got a
yeah,
job, so
hmm
yeah,
yeah. No, I was going to say that is one question that I kept asking, not only during the gameplay but also during the trailers, where I'm just like, I mean, everything seems so advanced. How are these guys affording this? Like, is Tony Stark secretly bankrolling them or something? What's going on here? You know? And
yeah,
yeah, there does not appear to be much of an explanation for that. At least certainly not a satisfying one. And I certainly will agree with you. Like, oh, 3D printers in your web shooters? What? Like
yeah,
that's kind of like, wow, is that even possible? I did kind of have a little bump there for that, going, huh? What are you guys thinking here? So
yeah,
okay. And I think at this
yeah.
point, unless there's anything else that you want to talk about in the non-spoiler section, I think at this point we're gonna go ahead and move on to spoilers. Are you good with that, or is there anything else you wanted to discuss?
Yeah. I don't. I think there's not much more we can talk about without talking about spoilers.
I mean,
I
I
think.
think you're right. God, there's so much to talk about once we list the spoilers thing. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and just implement the spoiler warning here now. So just keep that in mind if you are listening to this podcast and you have not played the game and you don't want to be spoiled, you don't want to go past this point because now we're getting into it. All right, Lewis, you're my guest. Please let her rip. What is your favorite spoiler in this game? And feel free to list more than one if you can't just
Venom.
pick one.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I was getting too excited there. Venom chews Craven's head off. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh, bro, Venom chews Craven's head off. Bro, anti-Venom. We got Cindy Moon coming into this.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
what's going on?
All the
Agent Venom
things.
was there
Yeah,
for a
the
mission.
Agent Venom skin.
Oh my god. Oh, I cannot believe it. Yeah, no, it was crazy. I am absolutely like, this is the thing. This is what I mean. You were touching on it earlier, and I was just like, yeah, I agree. The journey that we go on is like beat for beat for beat, comic book after comic book thing after comic book thing, and it's like they never fail to disappoint with the references. And the thing is, it's not even like, oh, they're putting it in there because why not? Fans will scream and like it, like we obviously did. But it
Oh
made
yeah.
sense to the story. Like, it made
Yeah.
sense. It made sense. Like, it made sense why Harry would be Agent Venom. It made sense why Peter would get the anti-Venom suit. It made sense why Craven would have his head ripped off by Venom. It made sense us playing as Venom. Like, oh my god, we got to play as Venom as well. They knew that we wanted that.
Yes.
They
Oh yeah.
knew.
They did. And
It was so
oh.
unnecessary. We didn't have to. We didn't have to play as Venom, but we did. Oh.
And the thing is, I'm not the biggest Venom fan in the world. He's all right. He's all right. I think he got overused in the 90s, but like basically I'm not going to deny that when they let you play as Venom, that was supremely satisfying. You were just a frickin' like tank with goo arms and everything, and you just melted through Osborn's men like it was nothing. And oh my god, no, I love that so much. Did you notice? I don't know how much of the comics you've read, but did you notice that they basically, for Kraven's arc in this game, they basically just recreated not beat for beat, but like they took the soul of the story Kraven's Last Hunt and basically did that here. Like I don't know. Have you read Kraven's Last Hunt?
Yeah, I have. And
Okay. Okay.
Craven's Last Hunt is one of those comics where it's like, um, yeah, it's special for the character, and I think everyone kind of knew they were gonna adapt Craven's Last Hunt, but I think Insomniac knew that, so they did it in a way that wasn't obvious at first, and then
Yes.
it became more clear as the game went on, which
Yes.
I really, really enjoyed because I went into this game, when the first reveal trailer came out, when it
Hmm.
revealed that Craven was going to be in the game.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, well, they're going to do Craven's Last Hunt, obviously. You
Yeah,
got the
you pretty
symbiote.
much can't
The
not do
symbiote's
it.
coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the best Craven story. It's arguably one of the best Spider-Man villain stories of all time. It's
Hmm.
like, you're gonna do it, right? You've got to. But then they did it in a way that was like, at first you're like, oh, they're not doing Craven's Last Hunt, and then the more that you learn, you have to go around, and the more you collect the Sandman crystals, the more that you learn about Craven's ego, the more you learn about his victims, the more you learn about why, and then you get the Doctor's note. It's like you start to piece the things together, and you're like, oh my god, he's doing this because he wants to find an equal. He wants someone to take him out, and he doesn't want to die by the hand of God. He wants to die by the hand of someone that's more powerful than him, and that's that. And it's like this, like you said, a neat adaptation of Craven's Last Hunt.
Yeah, and it's very understandable. Like it's very relatable. Like I'm probably I'm probably going to go by natural means, but like I could see someone who has done all these things being like, "Oh hell no. Someone's going to kill me." Like I could see someone having that kind of like, "No, I want to go out in a blaze of glory" kind of thing. It's because whenever we
Mm.
see that in media, we're always like, "Yeah, blaze of glory." And that was one hell of a way to go.
Oh yeah, I mean, Craven got exactly what he wanted, which I think is what I think that's what is so good about his story, is that he got what he wanted. His whole story was like, I want to die. I don't want to die of cancer. I want to die doing what I love, and I want
Right.
someone to beat me. But I'm going to
Yeah.
kill anyone in my path until someone does beat me. And he killed everyone. He killed
Oh
everyone in
my
his path
god.
until Venom beat him. And
So
that just
let's go through his body count that we know of. Let's see. He got the scorpion on screen, which I was just like, I didn't believe it at first. I'm like, no, I knocked him out. No, he freaking killed him. And then off screen he got
Mm.
Electro. He got the Vulture.
Yep.
Um, oh my God. Anyone else? Did he get anyone else?
You got the Shocker as well. You got Shocker.
He did? I must have missed that. He got the
I did.
Shocker.
Everyone said that they missed it. So basically, you know the zoo mission with MJ? Um
Yeah, yeah.
But you have to go around the zoo. So there's this little cabin in the zoo, where you can go to, and you listen to one of those tapes, and it's Shocker. It's Craven talking about Shocker's death, and he basically says like, he was too weak and he didn't even want to put up a fight,
Oh,
and basically
wow.
Shocker basically just gave up, and Craven just kills him, and Shocker and Craven was like, he let me kill him. He gave in to defeat. Um, so you'd think that that would satisfy me. Then he's like, but it doesn't.
Oh,
Like really
no.
sinisterly, and then it cuts off, and it's something like that. It's like it's great, yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, Shocker's dead as well.
Dang.
I noticed a
Okay.
lot of people didn't notice this because when I was talking about it in the live chat yesterday, I think because this is one of the first. This I think it is the first MJ mission, so it's quite early on in the game. Um, in the live chat yesterday, we were talking about the people that Craven killed, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Shocker's dead," and everyone was like, "What? Shocker's dead?" I think quite a few people missed it, but it's in one of the huts. You
I
have to
mean,
just scope it out.
I probably got that story, but I was so focused on trying to get MJ past whatever point I was at that I probably just didn't process it. So that is wow. So I mean, like, I, I mean, again, my hat's off to Insomniac for this kind of move, because the comics are never going to do that, and I get why, but like, it's not very realistic, and I know Spider-Man's not real, unfortunately, but I also think that we like a certain amount of verisimilitude in our stories. We like them to seem realistic, and they've taken a step. I mean, they killed off Aunt May in the previous game, which I was like, that is ballsy. That is really ballsy. And it's arguably something that needed to happen anyways. But then they just made a little hit list and just offed a bunch of Spider-Man's other enemies, and including Craven, and I'm still in awe of all of this,
Yeah.
What did you think of what did you think of Miles and Mr. Negative's whole subplot there? So significant.
Yeah. It was great in the end. Speaking of, I don't want to be too negative about it. Pun intended, definitely. But I at first it was about near the end of the first act, I'd say, when because the story follows that Peter is almost driving a wedge between himself and Miles because Harry's back and he doesn't
Right.
answer Miles's calls.
Yeah.
I know that was perfect for the story, and then Miles had his Mr. Negative story to focus on. But I kind of felt like Miles distancing himself from the main story, kind of made me less interested in Miles for a portion of the game. But as soon as the Martin Lee stuff wraps back around and Miles' story kind of comes a little bit more full circle, that's when it gets really, really good. And it kind of roped me in then. I was like, okay, here we go. This is good. But I think for a bit of the story, I think while we were waiting for Craven to make a move with Mr. Negative, and Miles was kind of just hopping about going, "Oh, Mr. Negative, where is he? Where is he? Where is he?" It kind of felt a little bit like they didn't know what to do with Miles's character for a little bit of the game. And understandably, the main story is with the symbiote with Peter and with Harry and MJ. But like, I don't know, it kind of every time we were with Miles doing something for Rio or doing it kind of disinterested me a little bit. I won't lie. Very slightly. But as soon as, like I said, as soon as the Craven stuff happens with Miss Negative, kind of comes back around, it ropes you straight back in because then we get the redemption arc. We get Miles accepting, obviously, as well. of his father's death, which is a beautiful moment, one of the best moments in the game, definitely
Yeah.
as well. I want
Yeah.
to say, yeah, it's yeah, that's my opinion on the story. But when it comes full circle, it's great. I just felt like they were kind of balancing on a tightrope of, oh, do we gonna do this or not, or like where is he, like for a very long time throughout the middle of the game. But that's the only complaint I have. Apart from that, it was beautiful. It was great.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. No, I mean I liked it. I really kind of feel like that I mean you're right. He does kind of get pulled away from the main part of the plot for a while. I don't have any particular issues with that. I did like that you had the background of him like he's having trouble writing his college essays and everything because he's having an identity crisis. He's having a hard time separating himself from Spider-Man. And honestly, I feel like that's a really kind of major through line throughout this entire game for both Peter and Miles. Like how much of Spider-Man how much of Spider-Man dominates your life essentially, and so and I think the idea of him having to figure out that he needs to let go of his hatred of Martin Lee was very like it was very realistically done, and especially when you get his mother's perspective, and she's very like I remember um I'm I don't know. I'm probably a couple of decades older than you are, Lewis. But I remember when I was younger having a much more difficult time letting go of things than I do now, and especially something that big, like someone killing your parent. I've never had to deal with that, thank God. But like, I could see like from his mother's perspective, she's like, you don't have to condone what he did, but like you're carrying all of this hatred and that's going to weigh you down, and so I don't know, I really like that, and I especially loved Martin Lee's redemption. I like the idea that a Spider-Man villain can go from being a Spider-Man villain to having a moment of introspection, realizing what he's done, and then just being like, I need to make up for this. I really, we've seen it briefly in the comics before with some of Spider-Man's enemies, but it never sticks, and this looks like it's going to stick, and I
No.
hope so. Um, what
Yeah.
about, what about, I don't know. Well, you know what? I'm leading the conversation too much. I want you to point out some things that you like or dislike about the game, the spoilery
Um.
stuff.
Yeah. No. I think definitely touching on really quick on the Mr. Negative thing. It was definitely one of the best characters in the game. 100%. I agree with everything you said about Mr. Negative. It's once that story starts to wrap up, it's like this is great. This is really
Yeah.
great. Yeah, no, I love it. It's great. Netta says current Norman Osborn. Um, I think maybe we talk about Norman. Do you like Norman in this game?
I actually
I
do.
had mixed opinions on him at first,
Hmm.
but then towards the end, I just you can see what they're doing, and it's great, isn't it? With the
Oh,
setup for Green
yeah.
Goblin and everything.
No, and the
Yeah.
thing is, I don't think I have ever read or watched any story featuring Norman Osborn where Norman Osborn is not at his core, for one reason or another, a complete and total bastard. Like a very kind of like sleazy, I'm manipulating you to get what I want and everything. This was something different, and I'm actually glad someone did it. Like I'm glad they did it this way because it looks like all of Norman's faults, however big they may be, they're coming from like a genuine place of love. He loves his son. He loved his wife. He's doing everything in his power to save Harry, and it seems very genuine. And I can totally see his grief over what happened to Harry being very, believable fuel for what I imagine will be a heel turn to just go tip headlong into evil and become the Goblin. You know, if they go
Yeah.
that way, if they go that way.
Oh wow. Who knows? I mean, maybe they throw a curveball and he's not the Goblin. Who
You
knows?
know, it
Imagine
could.
if they did that.
Well, I mean, Eddie Brock wasn't Venom, so you know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, imagine the twist if like, imagine the twist if they do like if they do like a hobgoblin, right? Let's just say it's
Yeah.
hobgoblin instead of green goblin, and
Okay.
they introduce Roderick Kingsley, they introduce Ned Leeds, for example. So it could be any of them. And then it's like, okay, is it the original Hobgoblin or is it going to somehow turn out to be Norman Osborn? And then it turns out to be Norman Osborn.
Right.
That could be a way they throw a curveball.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
Insomniac isn't afraid of twisting the source material, as we've definitely seen the last
Oh
three
yeah.
games, especially with Tinkerer in Miles Morales as well. Like
Yes. No, I
completely
agree.
original character. If they make Norman Osborn the Hobgoblin, for example, but they try and twist it to be Roderick Kingsley or someone that they introduced, that'd be cool. Like, for example, they could do that. But I don't know. I mean, I'm just like, I'm waffling at this point, but yeah, I think that'd be
No.
funny.
I mean, anything goes at this point. But I do think, and one of the reasons, I should have made this short weeks ago, but I was getting ready for Comic-Con. But I truly believe that these are going to be a trilogy of games. And the main reason, that I believe that is simply because there is a trifecta of Spider-Man's main nemesis, and by and large, most people
Mm,
consider it to be Dr. Octopus, Venom, and the Green Goblin, and very specifically Norman Osborn's iteration of the Green Goblin. Because there have been other Green Goblins, but that's when you're talking about the Green Goblin, that's generally who you mean. And
yeah.
that just makes narrative sense to me. Now, there's nothing that says they have to follow that, but so far looks like we're on the right track. So, um, yeah, no, I think Norman's character in these games has been very like he definitely brings some of the flavor from the past iterations of him, but like it's coming from a new place, and I really appreciate the freshness of that approach. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. And this is one thing that I really like about these games is that, like you said, it's something that I think we all realized when we played the first one, is the trifecta of Spider-Man villains. Like you, it's really, really, it like fits so perfectly. Like the Spider-Man's main three villains that everyone thinks about, like everyone debates, is like Spider-Man's arch nemesis is Ock, Venom, and Goblin. And
Yeah.
they did Ock in the first game. We had a teaser for Venom, and then we got Venom, and then everyone thought, okay, well, everyone's now thinking obviously Green Goblin for the third
Right.
game. But the thing is, it's so obvious. But at the same time, Insomniac somehow manages to twist the story in so many ways that you don't see coming, despite
Yes.
you pretty much knowing that Norman is going to end up being Goblin.
Yes.
Like and I love that about that's what I love about this game especially. Like the first game, we didn't see Ock coming, but once it was apparent that Peter had faced pretty much every Spider-Man villain in his rogues gallery apart from Ock, Venom, and Goblin, it was obvious that the second game is definitely going to be Venom or Goblin, and then the third one's going to be Venom or Goblin.
Yeah.
As soon as Doc Ock was introduced, but
Yeah.
then they came out with this game, still managed to twist it in so many ways, and it's like, oh my god, this is amazing. That's what I love about it.
One of my favorite little moments in the game. I believe someone in chat just mentioned it. One of my favorite little moments in the game is when Harry rickrolls the police officers during that flashback scene. I remember because I've been rickrolled in more than one video game actually. And so when it happened this time, I was just like, oh gosh, okay, we're getting rickrolled again. But I like all of the little character moments that they put in these games. They really do a good job of making you feel, for instance, that friendship between Peter and Harry, or really feel that bond that Peter and Miles share as being Spider-Man, you know. Um, and it's little moments like that where they really kind of do a good job of kind of like you mentioned earlier, experiencing the journey, you know, going on that journey with these people and then feeling the things that they are feeling.
Yeah, definitely. And I think even though I'm at the moment, I've got to replay the game, but I don't think the character work was as good as it was in the first game, but definitely the stakes and they especially the Coney Island scenes, which ironically is on the screen right now.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
the Coney Island scenes, they really push at home the Harry, MJ, and Peter relationship between the three of them. They really, really push it home, and they do a lot, not just between them three, but between MJ and Peter as well. Like they
Oh
really make you
yes.
feel, and that makes that Scream boss fight all the more emotional because it's like
Ah
you're not
yes.
fighting you're not fighting Scream to save the city or to save yourself. You're fighting Scream to save MJ, and it's like you're invested in that relationship, and the Harry one as well. Like you're fighting Venom to save Harry, and it is emotional. I did tear up when Harry obviously died. But yeah, it is emotional. It's really
I
emotional.
was I had the privilege of watching your final live stream of the story, and you know I got through this like yesterday, so I knew what was coming. So I'm just sitting here waiting with bated breath. I'm like, okay, how's he gonna react when Scream shows up? You know, and your reactions were right on point. Like I was like, nope, that was pretty much exactly the way I felt when all of these things happened to me. So but Scream MJ got forced to be Scream in this game, and that's not the only bit of development that she got. I mean, she was, I feel, a lot more involved in the action in this one. And really, I feel like a lot of the scenes that you do play with her, and I don't think there are that many, but like they felt more interesting. They felt more germane to the plot, in my opinion. I like the fact that she got like a little kind of like sonic gun every and was using that. I was watching you trying to bust out of the symbiote hive at the end there, and then I think someone in your chat was like, "Oh wait, it's Resident Evil now," and that's exactly what I was
Yeah,
thinking when I played it when I played through. I was like, this is like a rail shooter now, you know. But I really like that they did
yeah,
that with her,
yeah.
you know?
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I loved the MJ missions in the first game. I was one of the people that really liked them because I thought they broke up the Spider-Man stuff really well. Like it gave you a moment to kind of breathe and like kind of take in the story a little more. And they did exactly the same thing in this game. They served the same purpose, but I think they made them 10 times better as well. Like what you mentioned with the gun, like it made it so much more entertaining, so much more Resident Evil esque as well. And I think another comparison that I think I brought up in the stream was The Last of Us as well. Like it was very Last of Us
Yes.
as well. So it was great. Yeah.
No, it really was. There was God, again, so much about this game that was just amazing. And then let's see what else? What else? I'm kind of delving through my notes here at the moment. I mean, I've hit a lot of the main things that I wanted to discuss. Now, I haven't played a lot, like I've played some of the side missions. Whenever I see like a spider bot pinging, I go and I try to get it because I want to see what is going on with that subplot right there. It's obviously some sort of tie to the Spider Verse, but like I'm just like, oh, what is this? Show me all the things, you know. But it looked like during your playthrough, because again, I tried to mainline as much of the story as I could, as quickly as I could. It looks like you're doing a lot more of the side quests and everything, which is probably probably makes the boss fights a little less frustrating for you than they were for me. Um, but the little side content that I have played, I've really enjoyed. What's your impressions of it been so far?
Yeah, the side content I think is great. It's definitely like the first game was one of the things I really loved about it. It made the city feel really alive, and they hit the nail on the head again this game. I love the Flint Marco stuff. I currently aren't.
Yes.
I haven't done the Flame storyline, so I'm not. I currently don't know what happens in that, so I hope I don't get spoiled
I
somehow
mean,
by
that
a
makes two
YouTube
of
video that I
us.
may come across.
So,
But I've still got some stuff to play. I still have to submit Miles's essay, or what is it? You have to go to Brooklyn Visions for something. So there's a bunch of stuff that I haven't done, but from what I have done, it's been great. So yeah, the spider bots, they're really cool. I really like collecting them because
yeah,
you
they're
get
fun.
like little references to, yeah,
You
yeah,
get a
no,
little
they're good.
Gwen robot. You get a little Spider-Man Noir robot. You know,
Yeah,
those are
yeah.
excellent. So no.
Cineflix says Flame Story is wild, apparently. So
Oh yeah.
we got stuff to come. Cineflix says Flame Story is wild.
Oh
Oh damn.
well.
Okay, we're
Yeah.
gonna have to play it.
Yeah. You know, I'm gonna get to that one too eventually. I'm now that I've completed the story. Now I'm gonna work on 100%ing it, and then we'll see about New Game Plus. We will see.
Yeah, we'll
All
see.
right. Anything else about this game that you'd like to talk about?
And there's one thing I want to get your thoughts on actually.
Okay.
It's gonna require of a little bit of context, but um, so do you remember the rumor that came out? Uh, was it a few months ago now, where they said the Marvel Spider-Man 2, the second half of the game, would open the multiverse? Do you remember that rumor?
Yeah, I think I do
It was
remember hearing that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't like big. I can't exactly remember the finer details of the rumor, but there was a rumor that stated that Marvel Spider-Man 2 would open the multiverse, and it kind of the second half of the game would be more multiverse focused. And I remember everyone complaining, and I was like, okay, guys, okay, let's be real here. Like, it probably isn't, but if it does, Insomniac will make it good, right?
Hmm.
Everyone didn't want it to happen, but what if that kind of had some truth to it? Because we've got Cindy Moon coming in now.
Right.
What if instead of it being a multiverse, it's like they're gonna do? What if they start introducing loads of new spider characters that you can play as and that we'll interact with? Because we've already got Peter and Miles. We've now got Cindy, who we already know has spider powers. At this point,
Hmm.
if they've got off the comics, what if this is like a hint that they're gonna start introducing more spider people, like Spider Island, or they do a that kind, or maybe they do a Spider Geddon story, for example.
Right.
Like it
Right.
could work now that we've gotten hints for it. Do I want to? Do you think that's possible in Spider-Man 3?
I think again, I think with Insomniac, like I've met two people that have worked on this game actually.
Oh, really?
I met one of the writers, Brittany Morris, at Texas Library Association about 6 months ago, and then I ran into one of the game designers, Sam Jordan, while I was at New York Comic Con, and you know I met them both before the game released, so there wasn't anything about the game that they could tell me. But the one thing that their responses had in common was that they were really excited not only about the game itself, but they were really good at just kind of saying that, I know how talented the people that I'm working with are and how excited they are about this game and how much they love the character. And so I really, they both basically were like, we really think you're going to love this game, especially if you're a Spider fan. So with that said, I would say that nothing is off the table. I would also say that if this is going to be the final installment of a big trilogy project, I mean, why not go ham? Why not, just like throw everything at the wall that you can? And I think that if anyone can do that, I think over the three games that they have produced, Insomniac has basically shown they've got the storytelling chops to do this. They've got the pacing chops to do this. Um, can they do it? I think they could. Will they do it? They could. I don't have a yes or no for you there, but I think certainly, like, I think the spider bots are probably going to be the big multiverse tie-in, just based on what I've seen so far in the game. But I don't know. I like to think that there are possibilities, So that's probably the best answer I
Yeah.
can give you.
I'm not like I don't I'm not gonna like sit here and say, oh, definitely. But like I don't know, just pondering the question maybe. Because like you said, nothing's off the table. And it's interesting because they've obviously referenced Spider-Verse by doing all the different spider bots.
Yeah.
There's been a rumor suggesting that potentially the multiverse was going to show up in this game. Maybe it was the spider bots that they were referencing. Maybe they twisted it a little bit. Who knows? But
Well,
then
I
they've got
definitely,
Cindy Moon
yeah.
coming in.
I definitely want to collect all
It's
those
like
spider
she
bots
has
and see if
powers.
there's a bigger plot
Yeah,
there. But I'm not
yeah,
there yet.
yeah.
So, but yeah, and then yeah, let's talk about that real quick. Let's talk about Cindy Moon, who literally we don't even see her face. We just know that her father Albert is the mystery man that Rio wants to, she wants Miles to meet him and everything. Um, and yeah, like what? So when I saw that, I was reading the comics when Cindy Moon was created. I do believe I have her first appearance, and so I I don't know. Have you read her first appearance?
Yeah, I've actually
Okay,
got the comic
okay.
somewhere. I think it's
I I
I don't
I
I don't have it
feel
with me. It's under my bed, but I've got
okay. I feel like her first appearance was very cringe. Okay. It was very like, Dan Slott, what are you doing? you know? Because there was this whole
it wasn't one of his
spy.
better moments.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like once they got the character into the hands of another writer, she got a lot better. And so I was actually reviewing her comic for a website during the time, and I really liked her stories. I really felt that they were very Peter Parker-esque, but for a young Korean American girl who is in the modern day kind of thing. And so seeing her just appear even for a split second at the tail end of the narrative, um, that really kind of warmed my heart, and I was really like, yes, she's in here, however briefly. And so I don't know, I really love that part. I saw your immediate reaction to it, so I know that it resonated with you at least a little bit. So, but I don't know, what was going through your head when you made the connection and saw what was going on.
So there was that thing where it's like I think someone mentioned it in the chat earlier. Like, they were like, oh, how did they make Harry Osborn Venom work? Because everyone before coming into this game, everyone was like, oh, I don't like the fact that they're gonna make Harry Venom, and he hasn't had good Venom appearances. Like Ultimate Spider-Man wasn't great, but they made it work, and it was brilliant. It was
Right.
so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like you mentioned, Cindy Moon. Yeah, she's as a concept, she's a great character, but largely, her introduction through Dan Slott wasn't the greatest thing. They had that weird Peter and Cindy Moon spider connection thing, which was just you know it, Dan Slott just being weird, but about the character. But yeah, it's yeah, obviously. So getting to the game for Marvel Spider-Man 3, it's like, okay, they made Harry Osborn Venom work, and they made it one of the best parts of the game. And they
Hmm.
also, probably because this game is obviously more mainstream than the comics. They've possibly even made Eddie Brock slightly redundant in a sense that I think people are going to start thinking of Venom as Harry Osborn a little bit more, especially since Venom is kind of transitioning into this anti-hero now. Maybe Harry Osborn is becoming more of the monster Venom, whereas Venom is more of the, you know, anti-hero Venom, because the
Right.
anti-hero Venom is in the movies. So maybe that I feel like that switch could be maybe happening now. Maybe the same thing could happen with Cindy Moon, where she's kind of known as this comic character that had this really weird backstory, really weird introduction, and most people know her for that one girl with spider powers that started making out with Peter from the Dan Slott comics. That's what people know Cindy Moon for,
Right.
unless you've read her a bit deeper. So I think they're gonna take her in Spider-Man 3 and almost give her the Harry Venom treatment, where like they're gonna make her make sense. They're gonna. I think Cindy Moon in Spider-Man 3 will be the iconic version of Cindy Moon. I firmly believe that. I think it will
I
be
think
the
you're
iconic,
right at this
unless
point. Yeah.
unless the Silk TV series comes out first. But
Well, we got to get
obviously
through
we'll have
the
to
actors
see.
strike first. So, which by
Yeah,
the way, I totally
that's true.
support the actors strike. So, you know,
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
but yeah, no, it was really nice to see her. A lot of good nods to other things in this game. The Agent Venom look for Harry when he was doing the superheroing bit was really cool. Um, the part at the very end where they put Harry on a stretcher, I was clutching my chest at that point because if you've read, I think it's Spectacular Spider-Man number, I think 200, Harry tormented Peter as the Green Goblin for a little while, and then eventually the drug over, like the serum overwhelmed his system and eventually killed him. And Harry dies on a stretcher. Basically, as friends with Peter and everything. So when they took Harry and they put him on that stretcher, I was like, "Oh God, don't do this to me. Do not do this to me," because that's a probably not the most iconic scene from the comics, but it's a fairly big one. I mean, that's when Harry like died, like and before Mephisto brought him back and everything. But like, um, I really just kind of like the way that they seem to pull from so many different parts of Spider-Man lore in this game. I really just can't get over how masterful they were with all that, you know? So,
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. And like you said, they pulled references from the comics, and it makes you wonder, like, oh, what are they up to now? You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things, isn't it? Yeah. No, I thought it was good. I thought it was good, and that moment with Harry really was pulling at your heartstrings, wasn't it?
yeah.
It was emotional to say the least. I
Yeah,
think there's a
I mean,
comment here that's quite
oh.
interesting, actually. Oh, go on. Sorry.
Oh no, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's a comment by Mesozoic Minds that's quite interesting. It says, "Do you think they'll do a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story like they did with Norman in Spider-Man 3, and in Spider-Man 3 like they did in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1?" Sorry.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think I think anything's possible there. Like, it would be it would be a direction that the Raimi movies have already gone, but it's kind of like you said earlier, like Insomniac is not afraid to take something like that and then put their own twist on it. And again, I they could. I think they could. Um, as to whether or not they will, I will say I would say odds are better than 50% that they would, because that's a fairly well known and fairly integral part, I would say, of Norman Osborn's kind of publicly known character from the media. So yeah, I think I mean I would say that they could probably go about and do that. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they could do it. I think it's a good question really because it's like how do you handle Norman as Goblin in Spider-Man 3? I think this is a question that I think everyone has. It's interesting. Are they gonna make Norman straight up just a villain? Like, are they gonna make him a dual personality? Like, you know what they did in Spectacular Spider-Man, where Norman was fully aware of his actions
Oh
the whole time,
yes. Oh
but
yes.
he was calculated. So like Norman Osborn was purposefully playing off. He wasn't naive to the Goblin like how Willem Dafoe's is. Because
Right.
Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, especially at home, is like kind of naive to the Goblin. They're kind of two separate people. Like Norman Osborn is genuinely a good guy, and the Goblin isn't. But in Spectacular Spider-Man, Norman is calculating, and it almost makes Norman a bit more terrifying as well. I wonder if they're going to go that route with Norman, where he's fully just lost his absolute mind with Spider-Man, and he's ruthless, calculating, and then the Goblin is when the crazy comes out. I wonder what they'll do.
I don't know. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be an interesting journey for Norman here. Like I think no matter what they've done, they've done a good job of setting it up so that you could feasibly actually question whether or not Norman has the chops to actually be a villain and be the Green Goblin by the time Spider-Man 3 comes along. Because again, he's he's not portrayed, at least not yet, as a terrible person. He's a grieving father, you know, and so I think that I don't know. I think there's plenty to speculate on there, and I think that we could probably draw a lot of clues um, from a lot of Norman's appearances, like in the comics and some of the more kind of iconic stories involving him. Which I believe the Netta mentioned the night Gwen Stacy died in the chat. Which um, I'll admit, if they were to pull that one into the next game, the way I'm seeing it go, at least from this point, and maybe this will be like a short speculation that I do later, but like it would be Gwen. It would be the night Gwen Stacy died, except Gwen's love interest at this point would actually be Miles instead of Peter. You know?
Ooh,
Yeah, right.
ooh,
Right.
ooh, that's good. I like that.
Thank you. I
That's
occasionally have
really good.
those.
That would be that's like the embodiment of what we were talking about. Like Insomniac taking a
Hmm.
a very well known and loved story and twisting it.
Yeah.
Like imagine it's something to do with Miles instead of Gwen or MJ. Like it's like imagine. Obviously the obvious choice is MJ dies, right?
Right. Yeah.
But what if it's something to do with Miles instead? What if it's like Haley or what if it's Miles himself? Like who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah.
Imagine that'd be crazy.
God, I hope they don't hurt
I don't
Haley.
think they'd kill Miles,
I
but
love Haley so
I know.
much. I'm like, they're so cute.
God,
Leave them
please
alone.
keep Haley alive at all costs, guys. Come on,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
But
that'd be crazy. Imagine.
it could. And I mean, like, you know, it's like you said, this is the kind of thing they do. They will take that and they're going to be like, okay, let's view it from this angle instead and be like, okay, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah,
So all
yeah.
right. Well, do I mean we have covered a lot about this game. I am not quite sure what else I want to say about it here. Do you have any final impressions that we want to leave people with?
I want to. I don't know. I'm just trying to think because there's definitely something that obviously we haven't covered, but
Oh
like
yeah.
there's so much to talk about.
Well,
I
there's
think
also
we've
a lot that we
mainly
haven't
covered the
played,
the
so
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, there's a lot we haven't played. I mean, maybe even potentially at some point maybe we come back and do a Marvel Spider-Man 3 like top 5 prediction video at some point. I don't know. Well, maybe it's something in the future. I don't know. Like
Oh, I
once
could be. I'm
we've
down.
settled our thoughts, maybe thought, yeah, we could or something like that. I don't know, but at the moment, I think, I think both of our opinions and thoughts are very raw, very very. We're both driven by heavy emotions at the moment. So yeah, who knows?
Well, let's go ahead. This is probably going to be the hardest part right here. Um, on a scale of 1 to 10, and you can go into non-integral numbers if you want. What would you give Spider-Man 2 so far, and then just kind of give a basic, like maybe 3 sentence review of it, with the caveat that you haven't 100% today. So
I'm gonna give it. Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of
okay,
10, and I'm gonna say, um, masterful, um, masterful and heart wrenching. Uh, I'm trying to think of my overall thoughts. I'd say masterful and heart wrenching are two adjectives I'd use to describe the game. Definitely. Um, Fast paced, fun, action packed, and insane. Uh, yeah. No, I'll leave it at that. I think that
okay,
perfectly describes the game if from how I experienced it, I think.
okay. All right, excellent, excellent. I myself, I'm probably gonna go and give it like a 9.1 so far. I have room for it to go up or down at that point. And I guess if I had to just do a quick couple of sentences about it, Insomniac delivers another whirlwind, compelling story that Spider fans and video gamers alike are going to enjoy. They build on a lot of the mechanics, and the voice acting is on point. It is a wonderful Spider-Man experience. Definitely one of the better Spider-Man games out there. Possible contender for the best, but I still need to get through the rest of it before I can say one way or the other. So, but yeah, no, I think it goes without saying that we definitely both enjoyed the hell out of this game. Um,
Oh yeah, top three. It's top three
yeah,
definitely,
oh
without a
yeah.
shadow of a doubt.
Well, yeah.
Like
I
it's
mean
in there.
the
The all the Insomniac games are there.
are the top three. Yeah, no, it's usually when I think
Yeah.
of Spider-Man game lists. Now, I kind of group all the Insomniac games together at number one simply because it's just not fair,
They're
you
all there,
know?
aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're all there.
Yeah.
All right.
It's like
Overall,
Insomniac
oh, go ahead.
games and then what else? Ever else?
Yeah, no, you're
No, I was
not
just saying it's
wrong.
like yeah.
You're not wrong. Yeah, no.
Mm.
Overall, I love this game so much, and I'm sure there's plenty I'll love as I work towards 100%ing it. Definitely one of the best Spider-Man games I've played, if not the best. I want to say thanks very much to LewisFilms for joining me on today's episode. I really enjoyed having you here, and hopefully, if you want to in the future, I would love to do have you on as a guest for more episodes.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. Yeah, just getting to talk about this with a fellow Spidey creator is always fun and it's nice. And I'm down to come on whenever you like, man. I'm always available. It's yeah, it's been fun.
Okay. Um, where can my listeners find you online?
Just Lewis Films on YouTube. That's where I'm at. That's where I'll always will be. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. And now let's move on to the web spinners recommendations. All right. And in the interest of not blindsiding you with this, Lewis, I am doing, I've added a new section to the podcast called Web Spinners Recommendations. And what we do is that I and my guest, if they want to, we recommend a piece of media to my listeners. Um, it does not have to be Spider-Man media. It can just be like if you've liked, if you enjoyed a particular video game or audiobook or book or something like that, or a movie recently, to just kind of talk a little bit about it. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think on that. I mean, do you want to? You absolutely don't have to if you don't want to. So.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay. So I'll go ahead and get started, and then when I'm done, I'll ask you, and then you can make a recommendation as well. All right? So for
I'm
this
just
week's,
gonna
oh,
look
go
through
ahead.
what I've seen recently. Sorry. Yeah, I'm
No,
just
it's
gonna.
good.
I'm glad you're going for. I'm gonna look through what I've seen recently and then think about it.
Excellent. Okay. For this week's Web Spinners recommendation, I'm going to recommend a movie that really caused a real stomach jump for me when I was an adolescent. The made-for-TV movie adaptation of Stephen King's It. So, as you guys know, it's October. I call it Spooktober because that for me is spooky season. So my media recommendations are going to lean into the scary, creepy, and horror side for now. And Stephen King's It, the 1990 made-for-TV movie, not the 2017 remake, which is good, but we're talking the two-part made-for-TV movie that was put out in 1990. That movie did a really good job of scaring the crap out of me. And like the scary stories to tell in the dark books that I know I've covered, I loved it for it. There's one moment in particular from that movie where the older brother, Bill, is looking through a photo album and is looking at pictures of his younger brother, Georgie, who unfortunately was killed by the clown at the start of the movie. And there is a moment where I literally kind of like, I hadn't had this kind of jump scare before, but he's looking at the picture and then the kid in the picture winks at him. And it was just kind of one of those things where I was like, whoa, I did not expect that. And really kind of made me interested in the rest of the movie. Now, I've listened to the audiobook. I have seen pretty much all of the movies associated with Stephen King's It. And let me tell you, by and large, if you want what I would consider to be the definitive version of the story, personally, my recommendation is watch this movie and then watch the 2017 remake together and amalgamate them, and that's kind of the definitive version. But this one stars Tim Curry as Pennywise the Clown. And let me tell you something, Tim Curry is a treat on screen no matter where he is, and he is deliciously evil as Pennywise. Highly recommended. If you get the opportunity, go check it out sometime. All right. And that was my web spinners recommendation. Lewis, what have you got for my listeners?
First of all, I just want to say, I've seen it 2017 and its sequel. I've never seen the original movie, so I'm gonna go watch it now because you have just convinced me.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
It's, but yeah, it's spooky season. So just as you mentioned it, I was thinking the exact same thing. Um, I'm gonna recommend a movie that I think it wasn't very critically acclaimed, but I
That's
enjoyed
all
it
right.
because I think if you want a classic example of a slasher movie done really well in that format,
Okay. All
I'd
right.
definitely recommend Friday the 13th.
All
Friday the
right.
13th, it is a movie that I think perfectly embodies the slasher. And yeah, you could watch Halloween, but like everyone knows about Halloween, right? Friday the
Yes.
13th I think is a little bit more niche, and well, it's still popular, but like I think less people know about it. If you haven't seen it, definitely watch it. It is quite scary, to be fair, for because horror movies nowadays, most of them don't hit the mark. This one is honestly a great slasher movie, and it's retro as well, so I love it automatically. So yeah, it's great. Definitely
Um,
recommend it.
Interestingly enough, one of my other YouTube friends, a gentleman by the name of Matt Cave, for the month of October, he actually did a playthrough because he does retro games on his channel, and so he did a playthrough of Friday the 13th on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Really old game, and it's a legendarily difficult game too. To and To your point, Lewis, guess what? I don't think I've actually seen the original Friday the 13th. Like I've certainly
Oh,
I
really?
yeah, I've certainly like seen a lot of like meta narratives around it and commentary and stuff like that. So I know the basic plots. I don't think I've actually sat down and just watched it. So if you're gonna go and watch Stephen King's It, I'm gonna go and try to find Friday the 13th and watch that as well because you recommended it. So
It's good. It's like one of those movies where it's like you've got to understand its purpose. Like it's definitely not a movie for a deep character analysis or whatever. It's not that kind of movie. It's a sit back, turn your brain off, enjoy some horror, and
yes.
that's what it does best. That's what it does
Okay.
best, and I think
No.
that's why it's great for me. I think.
Yeah, no. I think that's a wonderful thing to do, and it's a wonderful thing to do this month especially. So, all right, and I believe that brings us close to the end of the show. If you enjoyed this episode of The Webline, please be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on my YouTube channel, simply named Spidey Librarian, where I also maintain a playlist of all podcast episodes. The Webline is also available on audio services, so when you see us on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or another such service, please leave a review, rating, and where possible, follow us as well. You can find me on my socials under the name Spidey Librarian on Threads, Twixter, as I'm now calling it, Instagram, Facebook, WordPress, and Twitch. Finally, if you'd like to shoot me an email, you can contact me at spideylibrarian@gmail.com, where I'll be happy to hear your thoughts, rants, and ideas. You never know, your email might be featured in an upcoming episode. The Spidey Librarian Patreon gives listeners and viewers of the podcast and my main YouTube channel the opportunity to join my small but growing community as I keep creating content about our favorite wall crawler. I'm starting with just one tier, the $5 Spider Society Citizen tier, which will afford members shoutouts on the Webline podcast, a special thanks listing on my uploaded YouTube videos, access to the private Patreon feed, which will feature extra polls, posts, and photos and videos of me and my cat, Trouble, and a special role on the Spidey Librarian Discord server, Spider Society Citizen. More roles, perks, and possibilities will be possible as we grow and diversify the existing tier, including the possibility of access to videos, early access to videos, patron-only videos and streams, and appearances on live streams and the podcast. So join the Spidey Librarian Patreon today and help grow our Spider Society Citizen tier into a full-blown Spider-Man community. Next week's episode of The Webline will feature a special spooky treat, as I'm joined by my friend and Marvel Comics expert, Joe Faust. We'll be discussing some of the scarier and more terrifying Spider-Man stories that have been put out. Which of these nightmare-inducing tales has taken over a special place in my memory? You'll have to tune in on October 29th to find out. Thank you for listening, and until the next episode, I'll be wishing you a good day. Bye.